I was at the grocery store, trying to decide between two brands of pasta sauce, when my phone buzzed. "I can't do this anymore. I'm leaving. Don't try to call me." My stomach flipped. Then another notification, our bank app. I tapped it, and my breath caught in my throat. Balance, $0. My hands shook, the jar of sauce slipping from my fingers, shattering on the tile. That's how I found out my husband of 10 years had not only left me, he had emptied every penny from our joint account. This is a story of betrayal, resilience, and the kind of revenge that money can't buy. Before we get into the story, let us know where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe. My name is Amanda Carter. I'm 38, a school counselor, and up until a few months ago, I thought I had a good life. Not perfect, but good. I met Ryan when we were both in our 20s, working odd jobs just trying to figure things out. He was charming, the kind of guy who could make you laugh even on your worst days. And I fell for him, hard. We built our life together in a small town just outside of Denver. Nothing fancy, just a cozy house with a porch big enough for 2 chairs and a place to drink coffee in the mornings. That was our thing, coffee on the porch, no matter the weather. Sometimes we talked about everything, sometimes we just sat there in silence, watching the world wake up. It felt like hours. We shared everything. Bills, groceries, savings for vacations we never got around to taking. We had a joint account, something we set up when we got married because that's what you do when you trust someone. Money came in, money went out, and I never thought twice about it. I don't know when things started to shift. Maybe it was gradual, little things I ignored because that's what you do when you love someone. He started staying out late, working overtime, even though his job had never been that demanding before. His phone, which used to be left out on the kitchen counter, was suddenly glued to him. Bathroom trips, quick runs to the store, he always took it with him. I asked him once, jokingly, "Who are you texting in the bathroom? Must be a great conversation." He laughed. "Just fantasy football stuff. You know how it is." I didn't, actually. I never cared about sports. But I let it go. Then there was the night I did his laundry and found the receipt. I had been pulling his clothes from the dryer when a crumpled piece of paper slipped out of his jacket pocket. I smoothed it out, not expecting anything, probably a gas station receipt or a random list he'd scribbled. But no. It was from a steakhouse downtown. A fancy one. Dinner for 2. 1 appetizer. 2 entrees. A bottle of wine. A dessert. I stood there in the laundry room, my fingers gripping the thin paper so tightly it crinkled. My stomach twisted. I wanted to be wrong. Maybe it was a work dinner. Maybe he went out with a friend. Maybe. No. I knew Ryan. He wasn't the kind of guy who took coworkers to expensive steakhouses. And he definitely wasn't the kind of guy who ordered dessert. I almost asked him about it. I should have. But I didn't want to be the paranoid wife who accused her husband of cheating just because of one stupid piece of paper. So I shoved it into my jeans pocket and told myself I was overthinking. The thing is, when someone is guilty, they start overcompensating. The next morning, Ryan brought me coffee in bed. He never did that. "Thought you might want a little treat," he said, setting it down on my nightstand with an easy smile. I searched his face for something, guilt, nervousness, anything. But he looked completely normal. Maybe I really was just being paranoid. For the next few weeks, he kept it up. Little surprises. Asking about my day more than usual. Leaving his phone face up on the counter like he was proving he had nothing to hide. It felt unnatural. Forced. And then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. He went back to working late, leaving his phone in his pocket, giving me half-hearted answers when I asked about his day. I felt it in my bones, something was wrong. But every time I opened my mouth to say something, I heard my own voice in my head telling me I was crazy. Then came the morning everything changed. I woke up thinking it was just another Tuesday. I showered, got dressed, kissed Ryan on the cheek while he was still half asleep, and went to work. I had back-to-back counseling sessions, barely any time to check my phone. By the time I left for lunch, I was starving. That's why I was at the grocery store, staring at jars of pasta sauce, trying to decide between classic marinara or something fancy with roasted garlic. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, expecting a text from my coworker about some meeting I forgot about. But no. I can't do this anymore. I'm leaving. Don't try to call me. I read it 3 times before it made sense. My heart pounded against my ribs. My fingers felt numb as I tapped out a reply. Me, what? What are you talking about? No response. I swallowed hard and switched to the bank app, a weird instinct I can't explain. Maybe I already knew. Maybe some part of me understood before my brain caught up. I logged in. Balance, $0. The world tilted. My breath hitched, and suddenly I wasn't in the grocery store anymore. I was somewhere else, floating, like I was watching someone else live this moment. The jar of pasta sauce slipped from my hand, crashing onto the tile, red splattering across my shoes. A few people turned to look, but I barely noticed. My money. Our money. Gone. My fingers shook as I pressed Ryan's name in my contacts. The call went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. I stood there, gripping my phone so hard my knuckles turned white. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. I left my cart where it was and practically ran to my car, my legs wobbly beneath me. The drive home was a blur, streets, stoplights, turns I barely remembered making. My mind buzzed with one thought, over and over. He's gone. He actually left. I slammed the car door and sprinted inside, my breath shallow, my pulse hammering in my ears. The house was silent. Too silent. I moved through the rooms, my hands shaking as I reached for doors, cabinets, anything that might prove I was wrong. But no. Half of his clothes were gone. His toiletries? Vanished. His side of the closet looked empty, like he had never been there at all. He didn't even leave a note. I sank onto the edge of our bed, my phone clenched in my fist. My life, 10 years of my life, had just evaporated in a single text message. And then, a new thought slithered into my mind, one that made my skin crawl. This wasn't impulsive. He had planned this. Every late night. Every secretive text. Every forced moment of kindness. Ryan had been preparing to leave me for weeks. Maybe months. And worst of all, I had let him. When I finally moved from the edge of our bed, my whole body felt disconnected, like I was walking through someone else's home, touching someone else's belongings. The house looked the same, but it wasn't. Because Ryan was gone. And so was every dollar in our account. I stood in our bedroom, breathing in that awful artificial silence, trying to make sense of what just happened. A part of me still hoped there was an explanation. Maybe this was a mistake, a misunderstanding, something I could fix if I just talked to him. So I tried again. I called. Straight to voicemail. Again. And again. By the 4th time, my hands were shaking so badly I had to grip the phone with both hands just to keep it steady. I stared at his contact photo, an old picture of him laughing on the beach during a vacation we took years ago. A life that no longer existed. I texted. Me, Ryan, please. Just talk to me. Me, where are you? Me, what the hell is going on? Nothing. The last message stayed on delivered, but never switched to read. I forced a deep breath and pulled up our bank app again, hoping I had misread it in the store. Maybe I had missed something. Maybe there was an error. Balance, $0. I tapped through the transaction history, scanning for answers. The money had been transferred this morning. Every last cent. Straight into an account under his name only. He planned this. That thought hit me harder than anything else. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment decision. Ryan had been preparing for this. Calculating. Waiting. Pretending. And I had been too blind to see it. I pressed my palm to my forehead, trying to stop the wave of nausea rolling through me. Rent was due in a week. The electricity bill was sitting on the counter. Groceries, car insurance, credit card payments, every responsibility we had split down the middle, and he had taken everything. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was financial. I opened my dresser drawer, the one where I kept my personal checkbook, the only thing in my name. I flipped through my deposit slips, my last statement. $326. That's what I had to my name. I swallowed hard, staring at the number like it might change if I glared at it long enough. $326 to survive on. I dropped the checkbook onto the dresser with a soft thud and walked to the closet. I needed to see it. Half empty. His side cleared out so neatly it almost looked staged. No, he hadn't just left. He had erased himself. Even the cologne bottles he never used were gone. The cufflinks I bought him for our anniversary? Gone. The only thing left was a single blue tie on the floor, like he had missed it in his rush to get out. Something inside me cracked. I bent down, picked up the tie, and sat down right there on the closet floor. The anger hadn't hit me yet. Not fully. Right now, all I felt was the unbearable weight of it all pressing down on me. I squeezed my eyes shut. Why? That question sat heavy in my chest. Was it another woman? Had he fallen out of love with me? Had he ever really loved me at all? I should have seen this coming. I should have asked about the restaurant receipt. I should have pressed harder when he started pulling away. But I didn't. And now I was here, sitting on the floor of my empty closet, holding a stupid blue tie and realizing that my husband, the man I trusted with my whole life, had just left me broken alone with nothing but unanswered questions. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for the late afternoon sun to shift through the window, casting long shadows on the carpet. Eventually, I pulled myself up. Crying wouldn't fix this. Sitting in shock wouldn't bring my money back. I needed answers. I dropped the tie onto the bed and wiped my face with the back of my hand. Then I grabbed my laptop. If Ryan thought he could just disappear without a trace, he was dead wrong. I opened my laptop and took a deep breath. If Ryan thought he could just disappear, he was wrong. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Where did I even start? I typed his name into Google, then into Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Nothing new, just the same old accounts, nothing suspicious. Then I remembered something. Our phone bill. Ryan never cared about passwords. For years, he used the same one for almost everything, our streaming service, our old Wi-Fi, even his email at one point. He thought making them all the same was efficient. I pulled up our phone provider's website, entered his number, and hesitated before typing in the password I knew by heart. It worked. My heart pounded as I scrolled through his call history. There it was. A number he had been calling late at night. Over and over. The pattern was obvious. Calls right after work, calls in the middle of the night when he thought I was asleep. Sometimes for 20 minutes, sometimes for hours. I grabbed my phone, took a deep breath, and dialed. It rang once. Twice. Then, hello. A woman's voice. Light, cheerful. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Then she spoke again. Ryan? Hey baby. I hung up so fast my hands fumbled with the phone. It nearly slipped from my grip. I stared at the screen, my pulse roaring in my ears. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't overreacting. Ryan had left me for someone else. And she thought he was calling her. I pressed my hand over my mouth, my whole body shaking. I wanted to scream. To throw something. To make sense of the fact that the man I loved had been lying to me for God knows how long. I needed more. I went back to my laptop and pulled up our credit card statements. Jewelry store. Expensive dinners. A weekend at a fancy resort in a town I had never been to. The rage that hit me was white hot. He hadn't just left. He had been using me. Spending our money on her. And he thought he could get away with it. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. If Ryan thought this was over, he had no idea who he was dealing with. I stared at the list of transactions on the screen, my chest rising and falling with sharp, uneven breaths. The jewelry store. The fancy resort. The dinners at places I had never been. Every charge was like a knife to the gut. Ryan had been planning this for months. I wasn't just heartbroken anymore. I was furious. But I wasn't about to let him win. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to think. He had drained our joint account and funneled the money into an account under his name. That meant I couldn't touch it. But he had made one mistake. He forgot that I still had access to his personal credit card. And I was about to put it to good use. I pulled up his bank's login page and entered his details. He had changed the password. Of course he had. But I knew Ryan better than he thought. I tried an old variation of his usual password, adding the year we got married. It worked. My lips curled into a slow, cold smile. Ryan had no idea what was coming. I spent the next few hours making a plan. I wasn't going to do anything illegal, no, that would be too easy. I wanted to hit him where it hurt. And I wanted him to know exactly who had done it. First, I booked myself a luxury weekend at the very same resort he had taken her to. Room service, spa treatments, the whole 9 yards. Under his name. Then I bought a handful of high-value gift cards, ones that I could resell for cash later. And the best part? He wouldn't even realize what was happening until his next statement. I leaned back in my chair, satisfaction settling over me like a warm blanket. But I wasn't done. I remembered something else, an old investment account Ryan had opened years ago and forgotten about. He had used my email for confirmation messages back then, and lucky for me, he never bothered to change it. I pulled up the account, entered the login details, and waited. Bingo. The account wasn't huge, but there was enough in there to make a difference. And as his legal wife, I had a claim to half of it. I smiled to myself as I sent an email to my lawyer. Ryan had blindsided me. But I wasn't just going to sit back and take it. This was just the beginning. I waited. Not long, just a few weeks. Long enough for Ryan to get comfortable, to think I was still licking my wounds, drowning in heartbreak, clueless about his little getaway. Long enough for him to think he had won. I wanted him to feel secure. I wanted him to think he had gotten away with it. Because that was when the fall would hit hardest. And when it finally did. God, it was beautiful. I was sitting in my kitchen one morning, sipping coffee, when my phone rang. The name on the screen almost made me laugh. Ryan. I let it ring twice before answering, keeping my voice soft, fragile. Hello. There was a pause on the other end. Like he was trying to decide how to play this. Finally he sighed, his voice full of fake sympathy. Hey, Amanda. I wanted to check in on you. I know this has been hard. Hard? I almost laughed. Yeah, I said instead, making my voice waver just a little. It's been a lot. I hope you're doing okay, he continued, like he was some concerned ex and not the lying, cheating thief who had drained our account and left me for another woman. I never wanted to hurt you. Oh, he was good. I just needed to do what was best for me, he went on. I hope in time, you'll understand. Understand? I gripped my mug tighter, letting the silence stretch. Then, as if I was barely holding it together, I whispered, Can we talk? He hesitated. Talk. Not over the phone. Can we meet? I swallowed hard, just for effect. I just need closure, Ryan. Please. That did it. Closure. Men loved to think they were so important that we needed closure from them. Ryan exhaled like this was some great burden on him. Okay. Just for a little while. We set a time and place, a coffee shop in town. Neutral, public. I wanted to see his face when everything hit him. I spent that afternoon making sure everything was perfect. I gathered every receipt, every bank statement, every bit of proof. I printed screenshots of his calls to her, his ridiculous charges, the weekend getaway he thought I wouldn't notice. I even had the emails from the investment account, showing the withdrawal I had every legal right to make. And of course the grand finale, proof that I had already filed for divorce. I arrived at the coffee shop first, picking a table near the window. When he walked in, I almost laughed. He looked good. Relaxed. Smug. Like a man who thought he had it all figured out. That was about to change. Hey, he said, sliding into the chair across from me. You look good. I gave him a small, sad smile. Thanks. He glanced at my untouched coffee. So, what did you want to talk about? I took a deep breath, reached into my bag, and pulled out the folder. Ryan frowned as I slid it across the table. What's this? Go ahead, I said, leaning back. Take a look. He opened it. And I watched. I watched his face go pale as he flipped through the bank statements. Watched his jaw tighten when he saw the hotel charges in his name. Watched his throat bob when he realized that I had cleaned out half of his investment account before he could even touch it. And then, he got to the final page. The divorce filing. His head snapped up. What the hell is this? It's over, Ryan, I said simply. He stared at me, his face twisting. You can't do this. Oh, I did, I cut in. And by the way, your girlfriend? She knows too. His mouth opened, then shut. What? I shrugged. I figured she deserved to know exactly what kind of man she was getting. So I sent her a little care package. Screenshots. Bank statements. Oh, and a copy of the dinner receipt from the night before you left me. You remember that night, don't you? His face was priceless. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and smiled. Good luck, Ryan. Then I walked out. The divorce was finalized a few weeks later. Ryan tried to fight it, of course, but my lawyer made sure I got everything I deserved. And without my money to fall back on, Ryan's perfect little life with his new girlfriend didn't last long. Meanwhile, I moved forward. Stronger, wiser, and so much happier. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't getting even. It's moving on.